have a resolution of the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Brunel, Dundalk and Raglan adopt the agenda as submitted. Can I get a move for that, please? Councillor Keller, seconded by Councillor Banks. Any questions or comments? I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Those opposed? Motion is carried. Is there any disclosure of interest on this public meeting agenda from any member of council?
No, I mean,
Seeing none. We have the notice and application for the public meeting. And, I think everyone, you probably has received one of those. The clerk's notice on the reports.
The notices were sent out on April 28th by mail and email to all agents and property owners within 120 meters of subject land, posted on site and advertised in the local newspapers on May 11th, 2023. Comments were received by the deadline, and those wishing to make comments will be heard during the presentation shortly. Council previously had inquired about the capacity of the campsite. Of the 10 domes, 5 domes with a capacity of 4 people. Equal 25 domes with a capacity of 2 people over 10, total capacity of fully booked. The campsite will house 30 people.
So now we're going to go to the presentations. I would ask anyone that's speaking. Sorry.
Presentation by Warren.
Oh, okay, sorry. We'll get to the next one.
I don't know.
Are they here? They are here. So can I ask the owners if they would like to speak in regards to the zoning application?
Hi, good evening, everyone. This is Geraldine and Rogelio Capilli. We are the lot owner. And the intention is to put on the 5 acre as a commercial. I believe that it will benefit the town with giving more opportunity for visitors and basically grow
the tourism aspect of the town and the region. So basically we want to promote the town of Brunel and Raglan as one of the tourism sites, as a camping site moving forward if our application would be granted.
Okay, thank you. Is there any presentation here by anyone in support of it? No? Okay, presentation to those opposed. I would ask that whoever's coming forward to speak, if we could try to limit it to, was it 10 minutes? To 10 minutes, because there's a lot of people here. We do have another meeting after this one. So Norbert Gallen and Norbert Boots.
All right, so they were planning on attending in person due to unforeseen circumstances. They provided a letter which I will read on their behalf. Dear Madam Mayor and Councillor Elton Fade, we are writing to express our strong opposition to the proposed rezoning of the property designated as part of Lot 20, Concession 11 near Gordon Lake on Letterkenny Road in Brunel to permit a camping establishment with bar and eatery. It was our intent to present in person at the public meeting on June 7th, but a recent infection of COVID-19 does not make this look like a wise idea, hence the written input. Talking with our direct and extended neighbors, we don't seem to be alone in our opposing opinion. You will probably hear inputs from many residents tonight, so we will keep this concise. 1, number of occupants. Based on information we received from DLR Township, the campground is planned for 11 yurts with a total occupation of 30 people. It is easy to imagine that this number could go up considerably in an uncontrolled way if the demand were there. Unfortunately, in today's society, it is easier and cheaper to ask for forgiveness than for permission. This is not intended to put blame on anyone who could do anything about that, like township staff and bylaw officers. There are simply too many tasks at their hands, and additional funds are simply not available to remedy that situation. We are making this point up front because an unchecked occupancy rate can easily amplify the severity of the following issues. 2, planned amenities. The drawings of the township has on file show the construction of a bar and eatery. This is a smart move as the campground is far away from stores and restaurants and can be a good source of income through sales of food, snacks, camping items, and alcohol. Alcohol and nowadays the use of marijuana are common nuisances at campgrounds, which often lead to disturbances, fights, and injuries. Moreover, we must assume that this eatery will come as a welcome source of food for truckers and other travelers passing by. Now, guess where their motor vehicles will be parked? Yes, right along the very obscure and busy stretch of Letty County Road and Gorman Lake Public Beach. Imagine 2 or 3 semi-trucks parked right near the campground laneway, perhaps even occupying either side. 3, seasonality. It is not clear whether the establishment will only operate during the summer months or all year round. During the cooler seasons, there is obviously less impact on traffic in Lake Gorman, but the impact on lifestyle and valuation on properties in the vicinity is the same. 4, impact on traffic on Letterkenny Road. 4.1, a site visit, if not already done, will show you that the entrance to the site on Letterkenny Road is a right angle turn into a narrow laneway. It is fair to assume that there will be at least 11 vehicles that will use the entrance daily to get in and out of the site, possibly more as campers will have family and friends to visit. This does not include the utility vehicles and staff. Visibility in either direction of Letterkenny Road is poor since traffic has to join an 80-km/h roadway. In recent years, since GPS improved and self-service is available in the area, Letterkenny Road has become a major route for heavy trucks and tourist traffic into the Opeongo and Madawaska Highlands. Having to use the road on an almost daily basis, we are witness to numerous incidences where motorists who are familiar with the area are either approaching the entrance coming from the Opeongo Road at high speed to make it up the steep hill, or coming from the direction of Quadville, speeding down the hill, letting gravity take over control of their vehicles. Our driveway is located at the top of the hill, and before we drive out onto Letterkenny Road, we have to roll down the window and listen to the screaming noise of a fast approaching motorbike or car, or that roaring of a big truck that is on top of the hill. Imagine how it will be at the bottom, close, right at the level of the campground laneway. Unfortunately, with almost silent electric vehicles becoming more and more numerous in our area, this is no longer a reasonable safe workaround. A further issue rises as campground users want to cross Letterkenny Road to use facilities on Gorman Lake, either by foot, bike, or car in case they tow a boat. One cannot rule out that unattended children will be among those trying to cross the road. On hot days, we seem to be heading for warmer climate and more droughts. There can be a considerable cross traffic. We do not have to go into much detail to understand that this situation is an accident waiting to happen. If it happens, there is no safe crossing. If it happens and there is no safe crossing established, then VLR will be liable, and we all know what that means for the people who approved the rezoning into the taxpayer. Number 5. Impact on Gorman Lake and the public beach. The public beach is well frequented between June and September. We are using the beach for swimming on almost daily basis during the time, and have a good idea how busy it is during peak season. Also peak season for camping. First, parking is becoming more difficult as boaters and swimmers are competing for the room available. Watercrafts have to be towed from the campground to the beach, and these vehicles need to be parked there for the time being. Keep in mind that boaters usually tow a trailer for their watercraft, so they require more than twice the room that a passenger car would need. The small beach section is usually occupied by children and often dogs enjoying the water, sand, and sun. Overlay to that situation, a campground with 30 or more occupants, not including pets. It is not far-fetched to assume that a good number of these would venture out of their wooded establishments and use the amenities of the beach area, be it as swimmers or boaters. Again, a situation that is even untenable, even over a shortest period of time, and has a huge impact on current residents. With the current layout of the beach, it can only handle a small number of swimmers and pet owners at any given time. To accommodate a larger crowd, a major investment is needed in order to extend the beach and parking area as well as a solid boat launch. This must happen before the campground starts to get occupied, not once it's full. A further area of contention is the lake and the usage of the water body. Currently, a maximum of 10 motorized vessels are out there at any given time. Usually, these are low-powered boats which travel at reasonably slow speed, and most of them are used for fishing. Sometimes there are people that taking their jet skis or high-powered boats for a ride. Although permitted, the lake area very quickly becomes very busy as these crafts cover large distances in short times. So far, these are isolated occurrences. Our experience with Wadsworth Lake Public Beach is an indication of what is going to happen in terms of disruptions for swimmers through excess motor vehicle usage and also parking on waterside along the beach while taking your son back. Common sense must dictate that Gorman Lake is way too small for these levels of activities. We are only talking about a few additional boats, but parking in the wrong spot or used in an unsafe way will cause a major hazard. Number 6, impact on Brudenell residents and anyone who has residential property in Brudenell. There is a huge issue as it affects people's livelihoods and who have been living in the area all their lives, and some of those families who have been around for almost 2 centuries. I will not elaborate further on this, because I am sure you have input from many of these families already. Madam Mayor, councilors, you belong to the group of people who have occupied residence in this gorgeous neighborhood, if not all, but certainly a large portion of your lives. How would you feel if suddenly this kind of establishment would be placed right in front of your doorstep and inebriated and intoxicated occupants make the night today through untamed behavior and alter your peaceful life and that of your loved ones overnight? With that, we are not brandmarking every camper to be one of the obnoxious type. However, one just needs a few among them and a conflict is kindled. Needless to say, that will have a downward pressure on property prices as Gorman Lake will be losing its charm, and if any property in a larger area around the proposed site will be devaluated because of traffic noise and nuisance. You can be assured that we will do anything to lower our tax rate over what we are paying now due to the negative impact this rezoning will have. We are certain other residents will do the same. Money lost to the township because of that will easily offset tax revenue from the campground. We heard that the owners of the proposed establishment are not local. This means that apart from a few tax dollars, pretty much all revenue will flow to the township with the exception perhaps of a few minimum wage paying jobs. This is in stark comparison to the investments necessary by the township to adhere to acceptable health and safety standards with respect to road crossings and beach and lake usage. It also means that the owners are using the establishment as an ATM at the cost of those who are living in the vicinity and have done so for decades, and who have chosen to pay high taxes for very little service, but to enjoy the privacy and seclusion the Highlands and its lakes have to offer. I will move forward.
Next person we have is Eva. Did I say that?
You did.
Wow.
So I'm not sure how this works.
We don't have a chair.
Usually had a chair down there.
You can have my chair.
No, I don't really need a chair. I just want to know how we get the PowerPoint, and she's putting it up there.
Okay.
Okay. So my name is Kashidi Kowat. I've been here for about 25 years. My children participated in the Gorman's swimming program. I came up here because there was nobody here. I have, I really just want to acknowledge that I'm here. Also, these are my neighbors. We're very, very different. It's really great to see all of you. Thank you for coming out. Gorman Lake is a very small lake. Mr. Whalen got this, I believe, we feel from Mr. Krantz. That's just emerged, so we have some copies for council. But again, this lake is 166 acres, and maybe it's 30 feet because it's very irregular because it's a glacial lake. So I'm happy to give that to you. It's not in my PowerPoint. So our community concerns are very similar to the Norberts. It's the traffic on what is known as O'Malley Hill, which is, again, I have a picture of that in our PowerPoint. We have a lot of parking problems. You straightened up the road, as I said in my letter, but people are still coming down that road extremely fast. And again, it's on Google Maps. So again, everybody is coming, and the motorcycle people come. I don't know if you know the show Letterkenny Road. I don't watch a lot of television myself, but my understanding from all my motorcycle friends is it's a big, people come and they want to drive on Letterkenny Road. We have a lot, we're not against tourism and we're not against business here. But these are our homes and this is where we live. And I feel that these people felt that we were in the middle of nowhere and no one lived here, but we live here. So again, we're also concerned about the environmental issues. I also have 100 acres right beside the Wall Docks. I know that there is connection between the lands. We have a small bond on that. We're very concerned. This particular, they're saying that they're aware of the environmental concerns, which is the back part of the property on the plan. They're saying they're gonna only develop 5 acres at the front part of the property. But again, it was, you know, this property has been severed about 13 times. So I'm gonna go through all of this with you very, very quickly. But again, this is in, you know, these are our major concerns. And again, there hasn't been enough studies. When we look at who lives here, we've all worked really hard to retire here. So I look at one of the new neighbors, welcome to the neighborhood, Jen. You know, they just moved here and they retired. They have bees and chickens, which is exciting to me. But you know, I don't think they came here to retire to have a campground beside them. I certainly know I've not worked my whole life to be able to live here to have that experience. So again, I just need to say that, you know, we live here. We're very different, but this is our community, and to have people like the Malones and the Baldocs who are generational, they've been here forever, and again, they're still here, which we kind of appreciate. But again, it's important to us that you understand where we see ourselves as a community, now, and we see ourselves as residential. There's been 13 severances on that ridge to date that I know about. Okay, which I can substantiate, so we're just asking for no more developments. Right. So I just brought this up, this is from Abandon Ontario. There are many articles about us out there, encouraging people to go on the road, to come and visit us. But I just draw your attention to this. You know, because again, the cemeteries don't get much older in Canada. Our church is 150 years old. Brudenell is the oldest hamlet in this area. So it has a significant history. It has a significant community. I think when we see that comment from someone else visiting us, it really shows you how much the community really cares about this tiny little spot on the planet. So Goulburn Lake is not very large, but a big portion of the lake has this silt. And it covers, I would say, at least a quarter of the lake. You can't swim in any of it. It's from debris and, you know, it's quite, I don't know, silty is all I would say. But again, and the lake itself is varying degrees of depth. So I've seen planes, you know, having left the land on lakes, and they circle our lake all the time, but they can't land on our lake because our lake is too small. And again, it's even smaller in terms of recreational use when you factor in the silt. Again, it's a glacial lake and it's very small. Thank you. This is known as O'Malley's Hill. It has a 378 meters. You can find this on the satellite. That's where I found it. This is that hill that we're talking about. I don't think you can lower the hill, but you know, it's high. And people again are coming down that road. And they're, you know, at Goulburn Lake, you put in a parkette for children. You took 50% of the parking and you put in a parkette for the local children. We applaud that. We want local families to come to this beach and participate, but it's a concern when you look at the, you know, that hill and you're in. So again, there's already limited parking, cars and trailers as has been mentioned. And again, we're concerned for everyone, locals, visitors, but again, there's a lot of kids down there and everyone's walking the road. And if you come down to Gorman, you know, they park, if you can't get parking, they park on either side of the road and people are walking and they leave their trash. It's already past May 24th and we still don't have bins out. And I can show you what happens when we don't. Thank you. This next picture. So again, this is you know, it doesn't look like much because this is but they come down that road and it's fast. It's super, super fast, and I'm at the bottom of that hill. So, you know, when they said they're opening up their window, they like pull out and, you know, you're just kind of hoping you're gonna be able to get out whenever you're ready. So this is the entrance to the public beach, right across the way is the glamping Gorman, they're calling it Gorman glamping already. It's on Google Maps. It's very, very narrow. It's right beside each other. And supposedly, I guess the parking is over here, but the septic is supposed to be over there as well, so I'm not sure how that works, but again, it's an issue. Okay. And so there it is, I found this on Google Maps, so already they're advertising, the new owners have not talked to anybody in this room, they've not spoken to any of the neighbors, they haven't come over to introduce themselves or tell us who they are, but already apparently we are advertising Gorman Lake Land. I just need to reflect that. Thank you. And there it is. I just found that. You can look it up as well. Here's again, you come in, so you come in, then you have some parking. Here we have again the children's area, which is fantastic, educational, there are trees. They're down there, they're using it, they're loving it. And many, many families from around the area and also Killaloe are coming. When we have, yeah, and there it is again, and you see it's well used, people are really using it. So the boat, this is the boat launch area, so again, that's, you know, you come in, there's the boat launch. Bass local ship fishermen are always fantastic, they're always sort of trying to park as quick, you know, as much as they can on this side, making room for families, but this beach is used by locals, visitors. But I also see, you know, businesses, Madawaska canoe people are using this lake. Local businesses are using this lake, and local people, those wood furnaces that, you know, you just do by wood. I often see people in Brudenell going down there for water because they have a, you know, pool, I don't have one of those, but they explained it to me one day, but I'm just saying, it's a working lake. Okay, people use the lake. Businesses in this neighborhood use this lake. People use this lake a lot. And there again, there's someone who's got a really, I found this online and again, it's famous. For it, and it's a bass lake again, and there's a lot of leeches. Like when I came to there, you know, you guys put in the sand. You should come put some sand in my face. You know, it wasn't really even a good swimming lake. You know, just over time, you know, a lot of us, Terry and others, you know, we've taken up the woods, so you know, there's less leeches, right? You guys have put in the sand. But again, you can see that this is the boat launch, very limited parking. It's very small. It's a very small, beautiful little beach. This was taken yesterday, so the bins are not out. So this is what people do. Is they put their garbage, they leave, this one, we're locked out on this one because they actually put it in the change room for us. But often, you know, you go by and the garbage is everywhere. And I know I picked it up, I know Pat picks it up and I know other people have participated. If we're going to the dump anyway, and we've got room where we stop by and we pick it up, but the garbage can for me has been an ongoing issue for years. Yeah. And so again, this is a little damage you see from people just coming, they don't really care about the trees, we're asking for more signage. And again, we've had real issues with camping. Last year we had a big fire and if it hadn't been, especially now when the fires are becoming even more concerning, it hadn't been for Mr. Whalen and his family, the volunteer fire department would not be able to get there. I've been phoning and talking to lots of people. We have real issues with people with camping on the very, very small islands that they should not be camping on. There's no firewood, there's no. This is Yan and Donatella concerned about where the holding cages and the food is very, very close to where this is the property line. And there are some concerns that some of the markers have been really. And I know, for example, that Yan alone. That stake is in the middle of two rival places. It's not, which is that, again, I can't fully explain this because it's plain to me. But essentially, we did have a survey and we did the vote, I understand this, but the two things you have to say, right? And they have taken some of this example, which is your concern. And so, is somebody matter, they would have to. Yeah, it's not going to be a need. Okay, well, again, this is what in the world time. This is regional service state. Again, the island is very small, so we have to do that. It's a very, very small area. Responsibility. What the police does, not the commission, it's always the, we have to, we were told it was. We have the police, fireworks now, which is every year, it's worse, and we're talking, the talks about how many boats, I really want to know the answer to that. How many boats on a lake that size is actually legally safe? Because sometimes you wonder that they're not gonna run into each other. Because certain boats are really, really big, shouldn't really be put on it. But moving on this ridge, this hill, there's been a total of 13 severances there. So again, we're asking for more development. This was the original 210 acres in the Malone family. Again, so the bricks, if we just go back for a second, this is the 13 acres that is property in question. And again, is environmentally already protected. And it was bought by Rob, and he then did 2 more severances. So there's been, thank you, a total of 13 severances on the ridge, right? On that hill. So already we've developed it. Clearly, we've developed it as a residential neighborhood. We live there. I wasn't too crazy about that. I don't remember anyone telling me I was getting neighbors, but they seem very nice, and none of us make a lot of noise after 11. So this is, not a good spot for this development. The other thing is there's not deeded access to the water. Gorman Beach is a public beach.
You've used over 10 minutes and there's other people to speak. Can you please wrap up?
Yes, I'd be happy to wrap up. I was speaking, I think, for a lot of us here. Did I miss anything? And is there anything you would like me to say? You're gonna say a few words. Excellent. Please don't. Please don't. Please don't.
Thank you.
Please.
Mr. Whalen,
Volunteer over for you.
you do that.
My name is Terrence Whalen. Everyone that knows me calls me Terry. And I believe I know as much about Gorman Lake as even the Gorman family, wherever they are. I was never able to find out how it got its name, but I've been going up there with my family, since the late 1960s. And renting a cottage in the summer, renting a cottage in at Thanksgiving. And I had an opportunity, my wife and I, to buy it in April of 1985. So I've been going there since we bought it. My wife and I were going there, even though we were living then in Burlington, Ontario, 50 weekends out of 52. Every day that the waves and the weather permitted, we paddled along the shoreline, and I think we got to know every inch of the lake. At one time, it had an active beaver population on the lake. There were as many as 2 lodges. I haven't seen a beaver out on the lake for years. It used to be nice to watch them whack their tails on the water when you came by in the canoe. We always had loons nesting on the lake. Their nest was on the south end of one of the 2 islands, about not much more than a foot in from my high water mark. I applied to be the Ontario Loon Lake Watcher for Bird Studies Canada. They're located at Long Point on Lake Erie, Port Burwell. And I used to file a report every year. When the loons arrive, were there more than one? If there was a pair, did they appear to be mated? Were there young loons? Yes, there were every year. 2 young loons always hatch. The lake got to be more and more in use, and that's fine with me. It's a beautiful lake, and I can see what its attraction is. But for whatever reason, the loons stop nesting there, and while they still come, they come as visitors. They're never on the lake for very long. I get to hear them talking back and forth, so to each other. I stopped filing the reports because there was nothing to report. They wanted to know activity from their arrival, which was usually the same day that the ice went out. And typically the ice went out about April 20th, 21st, around that time. The loons would be there sometimes later that same day. So the loons aren't nesting there anymore. The beavers aren't using the lake anymore. It's a pristine lake. It's really a delicate lake. And as you heard, its area, our insurance agent at the time, now his grandson is looking after our business in Killaloe, was Garnet Krantz. He gave me a map of the lake that the old Lands and Forest Department had prepared. 166 acres. It really isn't much of a water surface. And particularly the southerly quarter is, you wouldn't want to dump a boat or still dump a canoe or a kayak there. You go all the way to China. As soon as you hit the silty bottom, you can push a paddle or an oar down, but it can disappear if you don't want your paddle or oar back. So the use of it is concentrated on the public beach, if I can call it that. It's a very narrow beach. It was never a natural beach. I think that the township or the committee that runs that for the township brought in truckloads of sand. I drove in there this morning. It's all washed out again. So it's only about 2 car lengths in width. And I can foresee campers with children, any kid that, including my own and my grandchildren, they can't wait to go on the water. And they've got to come across the road to that little beach. The road has very narrow shoulders, as Ms. Kawak mentioned. The trucks coming down that hill, and actually coming the other way as well, if they're going south, which is coming from the Opeongo, they're really motoring by the time they get down on the flat stretch that stops at my house, which is at the northern end of the lake. They're motoring to get up speed to climb that hill. Ms. Kawak referred to it as O'Malley Mountain. I think our neighbors always call it Malley Mountain, but the Gerard O'Malley is a co-owner of the Metro store in Barry's Bay, so his family has a long history with there as well. But there's no shoulders. I never let my grandchildren walk from our place to the beach because of the narrowness of the shoulders and the speed of the traffic. I believe it's the quickest route to southern Ontario from Pembroke. And we're seeing logging trucks with pup trailers on, not this time of the year. A lot of flatbed trucks go by with heavy equipment, and there's endless tractor trailers go by, and they wouldn't be able to stop if a young kid was crossing the road. A campground, I would submit to the council, ought to be on the lake that the camp is to be established on. That isn't possible in this case. So one of the things I would ask you to consider is the very obvious safety risks there. So it's pretty much, in my opinion at least, and that's not just a casual observer, it's at overcapacity now. always used to bother me, and I felt a little guilty about it. I would get my binoculars out on our tiny little beach. And when I see someone in the lake with a bar of soap washing themselves at that beach, I would hope that the committee could at least post a sign that that's prohibited, or at least if it isn't, I suggest that it should be. But, I thought that this lake has very little inflow. There's a little creek comes down from Chatterson's Lake, which is really a large beaver pond, and during the spring freshet, when the snow is melting, there's a good flow coming into the lake at the southeast corner. Then the Apianco Hill Ski Club calls the little lake about halfway down, Little Gorman Lake. It doesn't have any sign name according to the topographical maps I looked at. But it has a beaver dam holding the water, and it can't be more than an acre or two of water. And in the spring, it comes over the dam, and there's a little flow into the bay at the northeast end of the lake. And then the other source of water comes from what our neighbors call Mickey's Pond. It is a large beaver dam that's been blown open in recent years by someone who doesn't obviously like beaver dams and knows how to set off a stick of dynamite. But that's also a seasonal flow. So the lake, as we see it now, is only going to get shallower shallower as the months go by until it's winter, unless we have some heavy rainfall. So and personally, I was upset to hear about a campground on that beautiful little lake, but who am I to say who shouldn't be camping and using that facility, except for these other points, some of which I have made. So I thank you for your consideration, and I thank Ms. Haywood for all the work that she's done in that PowerPoint presentation, but I've been retired and living there now for 2 years since my wife passed away. I'm the little house at the north end of the lake, and it was originally built by Basil Shields. If anybody here remembers Basil Shields, everybody had a story about Basil in his time. He's long gone now, but it's a special lake, and I hope the decision you make results in it continuing to be a special lake. So thank you.
Thank you. Maybe we could limit you to if you have any new concerns other than the ones that have been
Yeah,
presented.
I was just gonna say, pretty well everything's been said, but just going from my own personal experience at that beach, and I'm concerned about the environmental impact of extra people there, not just the 30 campers, but people that if there is a restaurant there, other people will come besides the campers to a restaurant. And that influx will also impact on the beach and the lake. And my personal experience at the lake, at that beach, is I was just horrified over last summer. The washroom was unusable. It was so dirty. Unusable. You couldn't use the toilet. The garbage overflow. And I saw those trees, saw the picture of the tree. The chain around the bottom of the tree was chained to the picnic table, so nobody would steal the picnic table. But the tree fell over. You could take anything you wanted off of there. And some of the pictures, if you saw, the grass isn't cut yet. People have left their own belongings there. There's a kid's bike there, kids' toys there.
We'll
So,
we'll pick that up with staff.
and the other thing is signage. I think signage needs to change there in a big way with more stringent signage about camping, overnight parking. Because people who camp on the islands park there overnight for many nights in a row. So, and there shouldn't be overnight parking there. And It's just the noise that comes from any of that camping affects everybody on Letterkenny Road.
Thank you. We will take that up with staff about the condition of the beach and get that.
And signage along the road too should change this. If speed limits were lowered.
Again, that is a county road, it is not our road. So it's owned and taken care of by the county of Brentford, so any issues with that road would have to be brought to their attention.
Actually, if I may, Madam Mayor, what council could do is, if we wish, we could bring a motion, you'll have to bring a motion to take that issue to county operations.
Okay,
And we will approach it that.
okay,
For speed limits and for no
Yeah.
parking signs.
okay. We can deal with that later. And we have more comment letters, and I think they're basically all the same points that's been brought out here tonight. Stacy McLean, so Stacy McLean.
Yes,
Okay,
yes, my points also are, I oppose to the development across the street from what Mrs. Steve Lot said. Mr. Ware, in the letters.
okay,
Due to the size and our small beach across the street.
okay.
Thank you.
And we have comment letters again from Jan and Donna Such. Deanna Malcolm, Robin Stratton. And then we have a few petitions. We do have a comment letter from the county of Brentford.
That's just for the recommendation letter.
Okay, and that was the recommendation of council. Okay, and Ms. Bennett, are you on with us?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I'm here. So do you want me to go over some of these comments, or do you want me to wait for any council comments?
You could maybe address some of the comments that were made.
Sure. So I guess the number one thing I could talk about is this zoning. We did restrict the number of domes on the site. So if the applicant did want to increase the size like down the road, they would have to reapply. So the zoning is restrictive. So it only says that they're allowed the 11 domes. Anything more than that, they would have to come back to council for another zoning bylaw amendment. That they also completed a hydrogeological investigation, and that study only recommended the 11 domes. So again, like if they were going to come back and increase the amount of domes on the site, they would have to amend that application as well. We did require potentially like a site plan for the applicant to show where all the parking is going to go, where each of the domes are going to go. They will have to have a permit for the septic system. I believe they did show on their application sketch that there are two, like where it's going to go, but again, like the CBO will have to approve of any permits on the property. A lot of the issues that were brought up, they are unfortunately not related to this development, like they are coming up because of this development, but they are township comments that have to be done on the lake. And this is not directly on the lake. I know that there is going to be an impact. However, it's not directly related to the zoning bylaw amendment. And again, with the road, that is a County of Renfrew road. So any comments will have to be made to the Public Works Department with the County of Renfrew. And yeah, I guess like most of the last comments about the washrooms and the signage, and that would be up to council if they want to, have a bylaw for more restrictions on the property or not. But that's It's a separate matter. Sorry, Madam Mayor, I can't hear you.
Do you know if the restaurant will be public or if it will be only for the use of the paying patrons of that development?
So I don't know, that's maybe a question. I think there were a couple of questions that maybe the applicant can speak to and see if it is something that's open and like what the, like how big this restaurant is really going to be with seating. Like it was hard to tell on the plan exactly how much seating area there would be. So maybe that's something that they could comment on.
Lindsay, I can take that on. I'm here as well and my husband. So it will only be for the campers. It's not going to be a restaurant because there's really no place for that. It will only cater for the campers. And it's not a restaurant per se. It's going to be just a cafe. If that makes sense.
Do you know how many parking spaces you have in your parking lot?
So the plan is to occupy the estimated number of vehicles per dome. So on our plan, there's an allotted parking space, about 15 to 20 vehicles. So, and also on our plan, so we are not encouraging campers to bring in boats because we don't have parking. We don't even allow RVs to come in. So it's solely vehicles for the campers, and with an estimated number of campers for a fully booked campsite of 40 people. So we're expecting, I would say, 20 to 30 vehicles on a fully booked day. So and we fully understand the concerns of the community. And when we initially visited the land before we decided to purchase, we really fell in love with the lake. And our plan, as we have mentioned to the deputy clerk, was we plan to move in as part of the community if
This will pursue.
if this pursue. That's why Lindsay had mentioned it's an 11 dome. One of the domes would be ours, and only 10 would be for the campers. So, and in terms of the washrooms and the bathrooms, all of the domes will have its own, and basically we will apply and comply with all of the bylaws and permits that is needed. So it will have their own washrooms and bathrooms for them to use.
Do you foresee the people of your campsite using the public beach?
I mean, yeah, most probably they will visit the beach, the lake, because I believe even as we went to the lake, but it's part of the, I would say, attraction, but it's not the main attraction of the campsite. So we plan to concentrate well within the campsite property alone. So the hikings or within the property itself. So, and we do understand that part of our property is like an environmental protected land. So that's why we opted not to touch that. So we know that there are, we need to preserve those portion of our land. So we're fully aware of that. And that's why our intention is to like go with a maximum of 10.
What months of the year would you plan to operate?
So we plan to operate like 4 seasons if possible. So we know, but the peak months would be like, I would say spring to summer, maybe until fall. So we are expecting some campers during the winter, but not as heavy as the summer months, similar to other campsites where the peak season would always be like the summer months.
Would you, the owner, be on the site all of the time?
Yes,
That's
that is the plan. That is the plan. That's why we
Eventually.
we are asking for like plan to put in the 11th dome, and that would be our, I would say, cottage, should I say, right? That would be our place where we can stay. Because like the plan is for us to manage. We will not gonna hire someone to manage. We will hire local people to assist us on the operations, but the actual management of the property would be us, like the couple.
So the cafe that wouldn't be a dome facility, that would be brick and mortar or stick built?
It could
A
be
frame
it's probably just going to be a truck, food truck, kind of. I would prefer to have it as a dome as well, so that it's all like uniform look, but not to the degree or not to the extent of being called a restaurant, because it won't be operating as a big restaurant, or outsiders will be able to dine in.
Yeah, and the plan is not to advertise the
Okay.
restaurant to the public. That is only, I would say, for the campers to use, because some might have campers would come in to have some breakfast to the cafe instead of doing their breakfast in their own dome. So they have that option to do that. But if you're not booked on that particular day, then you're not going to be allowed even inside the property. Right?
And your dome buildings, do they have running water or washrooms? No, right?
Right now, it has a built-in washroom, but it hasn't been installed fully yet. It's been assembled. So, but we plan to like apply for all of the permits necessary to make sure that everything is in compliance.
So you would look to eventually have running water in the domes?
That's right.
Yes.
This question is to Lindsay. If the municipality was to approve this application and it places more burden on our beach, could we, or would the owner, enter into agreement to perhaps give the municipality a monetary amount each year to help maintain that because of the extra use?
I don't think so, but I can look into that and see. Because it is a public beach, so I'm not sure that you can ask for that.
Yeah, I don't think you can ask.
That's what we tried.
Yeah.
Does anyone else have any questions?
The only other question I have curiosity is how would we envision the heating of these domes?
Yeah. Sorry, it's the heating of the dome.
Yeah, how would they be heated?
So right now, some of the domes, the initial dome it has is like it has a built-in pellet fireplace.
Okay,
So we're still on the trying to decide on if that would fit best, or we can do an electrical heater. But right now, the existing dome as currently has a wood pellet. And if you would ask why there is a dome built in, so basically we applied for a building construction for that. It's just for us to test, to
Right.
ensure that the quality of the dome would fit the Canadian weather. Right.
Yeah.
So, and make sure that it complies to all of our standards within Canada before we move forward. And we are really waiting for like a positive result on this application before we go, I would say, do the full blast constructions. But we are working with one of the local contractors, Yanta, in terms of all of the permits, sewers and everything. So everything would be done in according to the bylaws and laws of the township.
all right, thank you.
I would like to ask about the bar that's supposed to be attached to the truck.
So I guess the other question we have is about the bar. It says a bar. So does that mean a bar where alcohol would be served, or is it like a coffee bar?
It's a coffee
It's a
bar.
coffee bar. Because we will not be applying to sell alcohol. So, but I think for the campers, I mean, they have their own discretion to bring their own alcohols, but we will not be selling it. We will not be encouraging to go and buy, because that would be another permit for us to apply with, and we don't want to go with that. option. So it's gonna be like a family campsite where kids can enjoy the campsite itself plus the lake if by chance. So, and I understand the concern on the road. So I am also a driver, so I know it's a steep hill. So one thing that I can comment on that is if granted, now we can put in some signage that there is a camp in there where they can now start to slow down. Because right now, there's not even a signage aside from, let's say, the speed limit. And we know some drivers would like not follow the speed limit, and we cannot control that. But if we put in a sign that in, let's say, in 500 meters, there's a camp, there's a driveway, then that might help in terms of the concerns of the community, in terms of the drivers passing by the Letterkenny Road.
And I think with there being a camp there will be children, and with the public beach, probably we can talk with the county and see if they can have a reduced speed limit for strict, like children that play whatever, that kind of thing. That would help.
Something similar to what they've done at Talabogie, where they have to put up the flashing light for people walking across the road,
Yeah.
where they go to the location.
Yeah.
Because it's really blind there, but they have to put that in too.
Yeah, there's all kinds of things you can do to help, you know.
Yeah.
Does
I
council-
wanted, sorry, just one more comment. Just wanted to address, one of the ladies says that we are already advertising the Gorman Lake Glamping. We already named that as a Gorman Lake Glamping. It was just done because it was one of the requirements from the bank loan. I had to put it there, added on the Google map, as I was processing. We were processing the bank loan, and they wanted to make sure that it's there.
And we also had received at the office here that there was a septic tank put in or systems without permits. We had our CBO go out and he done a site inspection. And there's no evidence of any septic tanks or systems in place there yet.
Yeah, so right now the washrooms are built, but it's not connected. So we will apply for the septic tank. It's part of the plan, and we were working with that with John Yanza. So the plan is to put in a septic tank that would be capable of for all of the 10 or the 11 domes. So there's a plan for all of those, the running
not
waters
functional.
and the septic tank. So right now, whatever has been assembled, it's not functional. So yeah. And we won't proceed until we get the proper permits. And that has been agreed upon with John Yanta. So we're working closely with him in terms of gathering the permits before he proceeds on the construction.
By name.
Yes.
I see there are some members of council who already have a picture up of just the zoning. Just currently, my question is that they currently only have the domes 3 meters to the adjoining residential property lines. And they need to bring that into 9 meters.
Well, that would be done, like, everything would have to meet the regulation.
Right, so there is a plan for that, and
Yeah, they'll be told what they can do. and what they can't.
okay,
Does any other members of council have any questions now that they are to the owners?
No, it's just my concern is the public beach.
Yeah. Yeah, because it is small and there's nothing more there to make it, it is what it is, that's what nature dealt us.
Can I ask a
Yeah.
question? What are the trespassing on the adjoining properties, the patrons that are out there?
You'd have to
Would they
post,
be liable or, well, you know, if you set up posters, you only need
yeah,
some people to run into them?
yeah, again, I think that would be a civil matter for trespassing.
And if it helps in terms of that concern, we will put in proper markings within our property line, knowing that that is only where the camp is, right? So to ensure that campers would not go beyond our property line, although we understand we cannot control it. But what we can do is put in enough signs for them to be aware on where the property of the campsite lies.
If you had to, would you consider fencing?
Yes, we've been considering like a pole, like a wood pole along the perimeters.
Okay, anything more from council?
Not from me, right now.
Yes, from the staffing aspect at the beach, we've already increased our garbage pickup to twice a week. Every time our waste attendant goes to Brunel, and yes, that guy was picked up yesterday on Wednesday when he picks up. The garbage can is on site, it is even changing to avoid raccoons getting it. And, garbage. So cleaning, we have a staff member on site now, so it is cleaning weekly at the site. For your information.
And the grass will be back.
That will, the cutting the grass will be picking up once we get our service students and our public works canceled. Very, very.
That's something we're gonna have to deal with is someone who knows. Okay. So what's council's recommendation on this? Mind to voice your decisions here. You'll need a motion either to go forward with it or to not pass it, so. To approve, to refuse, for people. To approve, to refuse, or to vote. If we hold it, we have to go through the same public notice. That would have to be advertised in the 20 days, like it'd have to be advertised and the meeting would be 20 days later, so. So we have to do the same process. We can't just hold it to,
I guess we'll be in the election change in 20 days, probably not.
I would think, no.
Can I say one thing? I'm. Not everyone is aware of what's going on. I know in particular, there is one family on the lake that I haven't been able to contact because of my own work commitments. There are other people in the area. We don't know this is happening. So.
Well, we've advertised it and sent out notices, so. I mean, we can only do the best we can, and we're within the time constraints of the Planning Act. So like I said, we either have to approve, refuse it, or hold it.
Thank you for explaining that to me. I'm just, again, not everyone saw it.
So, so then I have a question for you, Lindsay. So if council decides to refuse the application and it goes to an appeal process, what are the implications for council?
Through you, Mayor. So like it would go to, if the applicant decided to appeal your decision, then it would go to the Ontario Land Tribunal. So
And
the applicant as well, like there's an appeal period, so the applicant can appeal your decision. No, I can't. If you ask me if I can hear, I can't hear.
You can't hear us, Lindsay?
Now I can.
okay, my question is, if they appeal this to the Ontario Land Tribunal, can they ask that they be awarded costs from the municipality?
I'm not sure. I haven't had any appeals. Since being at the county, I haven't had any files being appealed, so I'm not sure on that. Like I can look into it, but I'm not sure of that process.
So what are the 90 days?
June 27th?
They have 90 days.
No, that's when a decision has to be made. If we don't make it in 90 days, then the applicant can get.
Okay.
So do we have any more meetings between now and the end of the month?
If we have a special meeting, or you're gonna hold a public meeting, but if you're gonna hold a public meeting for this, we have to send out all the notices.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think we do another public meeting, it'd only be to defer to a certain date that is within the 90-day period.
Yeah. To just answer the questions that we have.
Yeah,
For me, it's a legitimate question. What implications are there for municipality if you refuse?
yeah,
And if it's gonna cost us in the end.
That's right.
yeah.
And then in the process, does the land tribunal make the decision for us?
How can you get that far ahead? Without your approval, I'm sorry.
No, if we don't make a decision, they can appeal us
Right.
to the Ontario Land Tribunal and say that we,
Refuse them.
yeah, we refused them and they felt that they had a legitimate concern and they will appeal our decision. And then the Ontario Land Tribunal will rule. And seeing if they've done all the hydrogeology and done everything that they need to do.
It's a small one. It's 15 acres of swamp.
But
15, sorry. Again, I don't understand how we got this far without anybody actually, you know.
okay, we have to make
I
a decision.
understand, I'm sorry.
You're gonna hold until the issues never.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I would make,
and
I would make the motion to hold until.
I would, yeah.
for next Wednesday night,
Yeah.
Sure.
okay,
So I will notify Lindsay first, just to make sure that our special meeting is okay.
okay,
Lindsay, did you catch that?
No, it cut out. Sorry.
Sorry, council is requesting that they hold for this evening and have a special meeting next Wednesday night. In order to ask, the county some more questions and gather a little bit more information before making a ruling. Is that permissible?
I think you have to give the 20 days again.
what's that?
You have to give the 20 days.
We have to get the 20 days in it, so that means advertising in the paper.
Yeah.
Which is
So
very,
I did, through you, Mayor, I heard from Bruce, I just asked him quickly, and he said there is a potential that if costs are awarded to the applicant, but it is rare, but I guess it can happen.
for what did it cost to do the advertising on this?
I don't have a complete total, and it's still waiting on some invoices.
What are we looking at, $500?
Minimum.
Minimum. So, what's your decision here?
I would still
Yeah, still go for
consider the
the.
whole.
Okay.
Well, it's,
So then-
it's an important thing and it needs the proper thought and I don't make a hasty decision tonight. I personally don't want to make.
Because if we lose, like, they're just going
Well,
and they could win.
No, it's not about that. It's about making the.
No, no, I'm just saying, you know, we have to make the proper choices. And if we say no, they take it to the land tribunal, and if they win, they put it up anyways.
And the chances with the land tribunal is if they meet all the requirements of the studies and all the acts, they're gonna approve it.
Well,
That it's as simple as that,
the following process, it's just.
yeah, and then we would get stuck with maybe $1,000 bill.
Because by the looks of it, they crossed all their Ts and dotted all their Is so far.
Everything's met.
Mhm.
Everything's met.
So that's what I meant, everything is met in the process.
It's not in the plan. There is no plan for campgrounds in
Yes.
your existing plan.
Yes, we just want, we don't want any heartaches from all the neighbors, right? We truly understand your concern, even I would be concerned, but it's 5 acres for 30 people, I think we're not asking too much. It will be very much supervised. We will put control on every domes. We will have a quiet night at 11 o'clock. We will try to be a piece. We just want to share the beauty of, Broadnell. We've been during COVID, and one of you mentioned about the concern about COVID, and this is exactly why we conceptualize this. Because when we were trying to find the land, we wanted to go camping, and so, but it's a hassle to do camping. And one of you mentioned also that there are people camping anyways, right? So why not put like a proper camping on that 5-acre land? It's not going to be a very heavily traffic. Imagine 30 people. That's a full 100% occupied, and we don't know if it's gonna be fully occupied. That's the maximum we will have. If there would be complaints, we will address that definitely. But my request is just let us share the land, and let us share the beauty of your area, which eventually will be us moving there anyways.
Yeah, and as to be a part of the community, so we will also share the responsibility to try to maintain the public beach, the Gorman Lake itself. So because that is like our long-term plan. And I mentioned that to everyone, that we plan to move to
And retire there.
Broadnell and retire there as well. Right.
But I'm talking about the county plan, or I was told, I looked it up, that there is no campgrounds that are in the official plan, which is my understanding, which is why we're here. That we are in a residential neighborhood. This particular property has been severed. It's not, I have nothing against these people and what they want to do. It's not the right spot. And they're saying that there's other things to do at the swamp, but I live there. They're coming to the beach.
And I understand that, and I understand how you feel because it's like in your backyard.
Right, but my point
If
is,
this
if I was
was
running,
50
I run
miles away
businesses.
from you, would you be concerned if they met all the requirements and had all the reports and had made all the legislation? Would you be concerned then?
It depends on the commercial property in a residential neighborhood.
It's not commercial, it's a tourist. Tourist, yes.
Madam Mayor, these applicants made a lot of representations to you verbally on the Zoom that aren't in their application at all. And they made the appropriate answers when it became obvious what answers some members of council at least were looking for.
Yeah.
But none of that is in the application. How are you going to get it into your decision that all of these things, like saying that it's not likely that the campers are going to be using Gorman Lake? Well, that's nonsense.
Yeah, that's not
And
something.
in fact, I had a daughter who was vacationing in Arizona during the winter, and she sent me an email. I don't know what newspaper she gets up in this area. She lives in Ontario year-round, telling me, Dad, did you know that there's a Gorman Lake Glampground, GLA, glamping? Apparently, glamping is a high-end camping
It is.
facility.
They do
And
have them in
Do you
Algonquin
think
Park.
for 1 minute, if one of the residents or anybody using the beach went across the road into this glamping ground to get something at the diner, that they'd be turned down? Of course they would. So I can see that being a festering sore, apart from all the other concerns that were raised here.
Well, I think our meeting is coming to late, yeah. So it's soon an hour and a half, and there was a half an hour allotted. So I think Mr. Councillor Keller was prepared to put a motion on the floor.
So the motion was to do.
And I was looking, so 20 days, if it was advertised on the 14th of June, our regular meeting on the 5th of July.
So
Is that what you're saying, over to July?
That's it, I'm saying.
Okay,
That's-
can I-
I mean, that meets the requirements, that is my motion.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Could I get a seconder for that motion? Any comments or discussion
Who
on it?
seconded it?
Okay.
Oh, okay, he did.
Any comments or discussion from council? I'll call for the vote then. All those in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion is carried.
Thanks, council.
Just 1 minute, we're just going to finish off the meeting and then we'll go right from the notification of public meeting.
For the notification of the public meeting, council is also required by sections 34, 14.5 to inform the public at the meeting who is entitled to appeal the Ontario Land Tribunal under sections 34, 11, and 19 as follows. Section 34, 11, if council decides to refuse an application or refuses or neglects to make a decision on an application within 90 days of the municipal clerk receiving the application, the applicant or the Minister of Municipal Affairs may appeal to the Ontario Land Tribunal by filing an appeal with the clerk of the municipality. Section 34, 19, not later than 20 days after giving a notice of passing of the bylaw, the applicant, any person or public body who made oral submissions at the public meeting or made a written submission to council before the bylaw was passed, or the Minister of Municipal Affairs may appeal to the Ontario Land Tribunal by filing an appeal with the clerk of the municipality.
We have a resolution that we, the council of the corporation of the township of Brunel and Dock and Raglan hereby adopts bylaw 2023-31 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the June 7th, 2023 public meeting of council having been introduced and read first, second, and third time and finally passed. Could I get a mover for that, please? Moved by Councillor Campbell, seconded by Councillor Banks. Any comments or questions? I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Motion is carried. And I'll ask for an adjournment of this meeting, please. Councillor Campbell, Councillor Banks. At 7:52 p.m. We will take a break and we'll call our public meeting, our regular meeting, quarter of 8 o'clock. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
So on